Hello and welcome to Tommy Talks TV, the place to be to build great love relationships. Now, in this broadcast, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 powerful secrets to lifetime love. But in case we have not met before, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tomi Toluhi, and I'm a relationship architect. So I help people design and build great relationships, because I believe that great relationships do not happen accidentally, but they are created intentionally. So that's what I do. I help people create great love relationships. I've been married now, happily married now for 22 years, and I've known my husband. I've been in a relationship with him for 29 years, and it just keeps getting better. So I just like to share the things that I have learned about relationships and marriage. So just to say that, could you please share this on your Facebook page? Just take a moment and share this so that your friends and your family don't miss out. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Pam. I can see you. Thank you very much for joining. It's great to have you joining us today. Take the opportunity and share this on your Facebook page so that other people do not miss out. And if you're out there, just click the heart button or the like button just to let me know that you're there. And also drop me a comment in the comment box to let me know where you're watching from. Because the last time, it was great actually. The last time we had people watching from the US, we had people watching from the UK, we had people watching from Malaysia, from Italy, we had people watching from Nigeria, we had people watching from Kenya. So just let me know, drop me a message in the comment box so that I know exactly where it is that you are watching from. And take a moment to share this with other people. Just tag someone in the comments box so that they know, that this is something that they should be watching. Now, in this broadcast, as I've said, I want to share with you 3 simple things. I want to answer 3 simple questions. What is lifetime love? How can I find it? And how can I keep it? That's what I'm planning to do. And I'm going to be taking Q&A at the end of this session. So I'm going to be taking questions and answers at the end of this session. So get your questions ready, and I'm going to be answering your questions. Thank you very much for joining me, James. It's great to have you here. So I'm sharing with you, as I said, 3 powerful secrets to finding and keeping lifetime love. Now, love is an amazing thing. Every human being desires to love and be loved for who they are and for a lifetime. That's the reality. But you see, the funny part about love is this. We all have our own private, individual, ideas or concepts of what love is. And I'm telling you, if I step out on the street right now and I go and interview 50 different people on what love is, they will give me 50 different answers on what they think that love is, or 50 different definitions of love. You see, people have written songs about love, they have crafted poems about love, but yet a lot of people are, no closer to actually understanding what this thing called love really is. So we want to take some time to explain it. Now, if you have, a concept or an idea of what love is that you'd like to share with us, just drop it in the comments box below and share with us what your concept of love is. Now, one of the most hilarious definitions of love that I've ever seen, or I've read, it might be one that you have come across before, but it makes me laugh every time I think about it. Somebody said that love is a feeling that you feel when you feel a feeling that you have never felt before. And that makes me laugh, right? So that's not the kind of love that we're talking about here. We're talking about lifetime love. We're talking about the kind of love that lasts through a lifetime, that will be there for 3 years, for 13 years, for 30 years of marriage. The kind of love that endures. That's what we're talking about in this broadcast. Now, lifetime love has 3 components, and I'm going to be talking through those 3 components and sharing with us what they mean and how important they are. Thank you very much, Blessing Godwin, for joining us from Lagos. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for joining us. It's great to have you here. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me an excited face, give me something so that I know that you're out there. It's great to have you with us. I appreciate your presence here. Now, talking about the 3 components of lifetime love, I'm going to start with the first of them. The first of them is passion. Passion. Now, passion is the hot aspect of lifetime love. It's actually, it's more of a biological or a physical component of love, and it's where many relationships start from. Now, I know many of us feel like we're super spiritual, and we sought God's face, in order to know whether this person is supposed to be someone we get married to or not. And that's all great, but we have to realize that God placed a certain mechanism in every human being that makes us notice certain people and be drawn towards them. So that passion, it grows out of an attraction, which is often a physical attraction, actually, that makes you notice someone different from all other people around you. Now, you find that attraction very quickly develops into a consuming fascination with that person. And it's the reason that many people actually take the step and start a relationship with someone. Passion is that feeling that you cannot stop thinking about someone. Passion is that feeling that you don't want to spend time apart from that someone. If you've been in a relationship before, or you're in one right now, is that initial sort of like consuming fascination with someone that makes you want to spend a lot of time with them. So passion is where the excitement in relationships comes from. Now, can I just help you with a raw truth here? Because I receive so many emails and messages from people who say, you see, God gave me this revelation that this person is supposed to be my husband, or, I dreamt about her, and, and God showed me that, she's my wife and all that. Stop. Just stop for a moment, because you see, you cannot base your future on something as uncertain as a dream, right? So I have seen many people wait for 2 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, because of some revelation that they had about someone, that made them think, okay, well, this person is for me. Meanwhile, the person moves on to get married to somebody else, right? So you see, most dreams that people have about another person is because of passion. They think they are spiritual, but they're actually born out of passion. You think about them so much that you begin to dream about them. That's what passion does to people. You see, the Bible makes it very clear in Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 3. It says, a dream comes out of the multitude of a day's business. I like one version of it, the contemporary English version, and it puts it this way. It says, if you keep thinking about something, you will dream about it. It's as simple as that. So let's, stop over spiritualizing things. I mean, there's no doubt that sometimes God does reveal things to people, by dreams and visions, but let's be honest. If the only time you have dreams and visions is when you're thinking about who to get married to, and you don't receive dreams and visions about what God wants you to do with your life or your life purpose and all the rest of that, it might very well be because you're being driven by passion. In fact, I would say that 98% of dreams around this area are actually in that category of dreams that come as a result of passion. So don't base your life on shaky ground, of dreams and all that. Base your life on God's word and what God has said, right? So, there's nothing wrong with passion. That's one thing we need to realize. It's a very vital part of the love equation, right? It's very important. In fact, the book of Song of Solomon is completely dedicated to this aspect of love, this whole thing of passion. Let me tell you, I recall very clearly the very first time that I noticed the book of Song of Solomon in my Bible. I was, a young teenager then, in my early teens. And I was like, what in the world? How did this get there? Who snuck this into my Bible? It's like, this is contamination of the Holy Scriptures. Because at that point in my life, I didn't realize that passion was actually a godly thing, right? So it's a godly thing. It's a godly thing when it's kept in its proper context. Right? Passion begins as a physical attraction, but it is designed to develop into a healthy sexual relationship after marriage. And the emphasis is on after marriage. So it must be kept in check until after marriage, when it can blossom freely into sexual love in marriage. If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up or a like or something like that to let me know that you agree with me on that. Now, let me reiterate. Passion must be present before marriage, but it must be controlled before marriage. Let me say that again. Passion must be present before marriage, but it must be controlled before marriage. Thank you. To put it plainly, you need a marriage license to use your sex drive. And there is no learner's permit, and there is no provisional license when it comes to using your sex drive. Hello? So passion is something that you need to keep in check until after you get married, but it needs to be present in a relationship before you get married. So, if you're in a relationship with someone currently, ask yourself, are you passionate about that person? Are you excited about them? Do you long to be in their presence? And if not, perhaps you need to put pause on that relationship and actually analyze why not. Examine the relationship carefully, think about it carefully, and ask yourself, why am I not passionate about them? Why am I not excited about spending time with them? Because you will need that element of passion to have the kind of marriage that God wants you to have, to enjoy lifetime love, right? Now, secondly, if you are already married and the passion in your marriage seems to have waned, it seems to have died down, then you need to think back to a time when, you couldn't stop thinking about each other. Think about the times when, you couldn't stop spending time with each other. You just loved to be around each other. So what happened? Now, it's not unusual for passion to fade in marriage. It's not unusual at all. You see, and that's something that tends to happen for a number of reasons. It could be because when you get, before you get married to someone, it's like they're so fascinating, so exciting. And then suddenly when you get married to them, it's like you're suddenly confronted with the realities of who they are, with all their faults, and their weaknesses and all that. And then because of that, we begin to lose focus on, what drew us to them in the first place, or that fascination that we had with them in the first place. Or we begin to take their love for granted. That's what happens sometimes. So we feel that we no longer need to pursue them because we're already in marriage. But then you lose that fundamental aspect of passion in a marriage, and it makes the marriage boring. Or sometimes it's actually because we're facing challenges in our life. So it could be challenges that have obscured our focus on our love. So things like maybe the loss of a job, or a new baby in the family, or certain health issues that you're facing, and because of that you've lost focus on your love. But there is a way to recapture lost passion. Welcome. Thank you very much, Toyin, for joining us from Abuja. It's great to have you with us. Now, how do you recapture lost passion in relationships? There's one scripture that I have found to be so instructive in this area. It's in Revelation chapter 2, verses 4 to 5. Now, this scripture is actually talking about how we go about rekindling our passion for God, but it's also very crucial in the area of relationships with human beings. So Revelation chapter 2, verses 4 and 5 from the New Living Translation, and I'll read for us. It says, "But I have this complaint against you. You don't love me or each other as you did at first." So in other words, you've lost your passion. Then he says, "Look how far you have fallen. Turn back to me and do the works that you did at first." Look how far you have fallen. Turn back to me and do the works that you did at first. Right, and I'll break that down in a minute. Now, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. Just drop me a comment in the comments box. Let us know where you're watching from. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us, a high five, whatever. Just to let us know that you're out there and you're watching. So there are 3 simple steps based on this scripture for rekindling lost passion, and I'll go through them. The first of them is this: remember how things used to be. That's what that scripture says. It says, remember how far you've fallen. Remember how things used to be. When you couldn't stop thinking about each other, when you couldn't stop spending time with each other. Remind yourself of the beauty of the relationship that you have, of the beauty of the love that you have with your husband or with your wife. Don't just focus on their weaknesses, but focus on their strengths, and rekindle your desire to return to that level of passion again in your relationship. Now, the second thing is this: notice your spouse. Notice your spouse. It says here, turn back to me. Because many times what happens when passion is lost in a marriage is because we've turned our attention away from our spouse, and we've turned that attention to other things. But it says, turn back to me. Turn back to me. So when you turn back to someone, you begin to notice them again. You notice all the great things about them. You notice all the strengths that made you fall in love with them initially. You actually turn your eyes back to them and you pay attention to them. And your heart follows your attention. Let me say that again. Your heart follows your attention. Thank you very much, Tinje, from watching from Blackpool. It's great to have you here. Your heart follows your attention. Remove your focus from their faults and pay attention to what a blessing they are in your life. And then the third thing, do the things that you used to do before. Now, this one is very important. Send her text messages about how much she means to you. You used to do it before, begin to do it again. Compliment him when he dresses up nicely. You used to do that before, do it again. Appreciate her when she does something for you. That's what you used to do before. Do it again. Be polite. Be courteous in your relationship. Don't take each other for granted. Say please. Say thank you. Do all the things, all those nice courtesies that made you fall in love with each other in the first place. Do them again. That's how to rekindle lost love or lost passion, right? So restoring passion is easy if you are willing to make the effort. Now, let me say this. If you haven't done it before, for a long time, if you haven't done it for a while, your wife may nearly fall out of her chair when you tell her you love her. That's the reality. Or you compliment your husband, and all of a sudden he begins to wonder, what does she want? What exactly is she on about? She must want something from me, right? Okay? But, the thing is this, you just need to persist. Take your time, persist, keep at it. Persist at it. After a while, they will begin to understand, and they will begin to realize actually that there's something new and fresh that is happening in your relationship. So let me say, the next move is yours, right? Don't wait for your husband. Don't wait for your wife. Don't wait for anyone else. The next move is yours. If you agree with me, yes, thank you. Give me a like or a thumbs up or something like that, right? Don't wait for your husband. The next move is yours. Now, let me say this about passion before I move on to the other two aspects of love. Unfortunately, this is a note of caution. Many people try to build an enduring relationship on passion alone. Now, that's an experiment that is doomed to failure. Why do I say this? It's because the fact that your hormones are all over the place about someone doesn't mean that they're necessarily good for you or they should be in your life. That's the truth. It's very, very possible for you to be passionate about someone who is not good for you, right? So you need to recognize that and realize that raw passion on its own can be selfish, can be self-seeking if it's not balanced with the other two aspects of love or the other two components of love. So you need to make sure that all the components of love are held in balance, right? And that's where the other aspects of lifetime love are important. Now, let me say, if you're just joining us, you're welcome. Let's know where you're watching from. So just drop us a comment in the comments box to say where you're watching us from. It's great to have you joining us. Thank you, Kenneth, for joining us. Thank you for, everyone for joining this live broadcast. It's great to have you here. And I'm so excited. And we're talking about the 3 powerful secrets to lifetime love. Now, if you're watching the rebroadcast, it's not too late for you to leave a comment or to let us know where you're watching from, because I will come back and I will look at the comments at the end and I will respond to them. And also, let me say, get your questions ready, because I will take questions at the end of this broadcast. Now, the second aspect of lifetime love is intimacy. Now, I said to us that passion is the hot aspect of lifetime love. Well, intimacy is the warm aspect of lifetime love, because intimacy speaks of our human desire to know and to be known. Intimacy is a combination of spiritual and emotional connection with someone. You see, that's what makes you feel like you have found your soulmate. You found your best friend, someone that you want to spend the rest of your life with, because we're all seeking someone who knows us more than anyone else in the whole of the world, and loves us all the same, and appreciates us and values us for who we are. That's the intimacy we're searching for. We're looking for someone who shares our deepest spiritual convictions. We're looking for someone who we can share our, innermost pains and our deepest secrets with, and they will still love us and accept us the way that we are. We're looking for someone who returns our trust by not holding anything back from us, right? So intimacy is what makes you feel close to someone that you're in a relationship with. Now, let me say that intimacy can be hard work, because it requires a willingness for you to risk and open up your heart to someone and trust them with the deepest part of your heart. Just let that truth sink in. It requires you to risk. There's no intimacy without risk. So usually you find that when married couples begin to talk about feeling lonely in their marriage, this is the component that is missing in the marriage. Is that aspect of intimacy. It's the component that's missing in the marriage. Now, let me speak here to someone who has been hurt before. So because of your past pain, you've made up your mind, you're not going to trust again. Maybe your spouse hurt you in the past, or your parents hurt you, or someone out there hurt you in the past. And because of because of the hurt of the past, you've locked up your heart and you've thrown away the key. Listen to me. The walls that we erect around our hearts, that keep our hearts locked in, they keep us in prisons of isolation, right? So if you keep your heart within walls, then you will stay within a prison of isolation, because there is no intimacy without risk. So sometimes I know we can be afraid, because, we think if a person really knows us as we are, then they may not really love us, as we desire for them to, or they may stop loving us and all that sort of thing. But you see, the problem with, pretending to be someone else is that you can only achieve fake intimacy, pseudo intimacy that way. Because you know in your heart that what you have is not real, because you've not really opened up who you are to that person. Now, let me also say this. Some people are more intimate with a friend or a family member than they are with their spouse. This ought not to be so. You see, because this means that you have settled for less than the best in your relationship, right? And, there's so much more that you could have if you cultivate intimacy in your relationship. Now, intimacy is built on 4 things. There are 4 key things that, intimacy is built on. The first of them is spiritual compatibility. If you're taking notes, spiritual compatibility. The second of them is deep communication. The third of them is companionship. And the fourth is trust. Thank you very much, Olobayo Adeshi. Thank you for watching. It's great to have you watching us. Now, first of all, let me talk about spiritual compatibility. You see, if your faith means anything to you, you cannot be truly intimate with someone who does not share that fundamental aspect of your life. That's the reality. So you cannot be intimate with someone who doesn't share your spiritual convictions. The Bible says in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14, from the Voice translation, it says, "Don't develop partnerships with those who are not followers of Jesus' teaching. For what real connection can exist between righteousness and rebellion? And how can light participate in darkness?" Now, the emphasis in that scripture is real connection. If you're looking for real connection, if you're looking for real intimacy with your spouse, then you've got to be prepared to find someone who shares your spiritual convictions. If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up or a like or something like that if you know what I'm talking about. Real connection comes if you share your life with someone who shares your spiritual convictions. So if you're a follower of Christ and you're contemplating a relationship with someone who isn't, listen up, don't do it. You see, because you will miss out on the deep intimacy that you should have in your relationship, because you cannot share that important aspect of your life with that person, right? Thank you. Thank you for all the likes and the shares and the comments. Now, the next thing is deep communication. Now, that's very important. Deep communication is crucial in building intimacy, because if you don't open up and communicate deeply with a person, it will be impossible to maintain intimacy with that person. Now, let me speak to all the introverts in the house. If you're an introvert in the house, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, or type "that's me," right? Just don't be shy, but just be honest. If you're an introvert, just give me a thumbs up or a like. Now, you're in good company, right? Thank you. Oh, great. That's awesome. You see, you've got to be honest with yourself. If you're someone that likes your own company, right, and you tend to be, very internal, you internalize things, right? You're in good company. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert as well. So you're in good company. My natural inclination is to want to, process things on the inside, right? Process everything internally, and, I had to learn the hard way to open up to someone else and express my feelings, right? Because without it, you cannot really be close to someone else. And in fact, if you internalize everything, then, what happens is that, you make it difficult for the other person to get close to you, and they begin to feel irrelevant in your life because you don't open up to them. So it's something that you've got to make up your mind to do, right? I get all sorts of, messages from people saying, well, he doesn't talk to me, he doesn't share his feelings, he doesn't consult with me, she doesn't share with me, she doesn't consult, she just does things. That's usually because of, because the person is an introvert. Thank you, Ben Musi, for joining us. It's great to have you here. Right? So if you're an introvert, be honest with yourself. Now, let me say this, sometimes you find that, within the sexes, there tends to be that differential. So a lot of men fall into this category of not, really being very open with their feelings, not being able to share their feelings openly. They tend to have a challenge, or a struggle sharing their feelings. But you see, if you want your wife to feel like your partner and you're confident, you've got to be prepared to open up and confide in her. You see, it doesn't make you any less a man if you share your feelings. It just helps you to build intimacy or relation, in that relationship or that marriage. If you're a man out there, give me a thumbs up or give me a like to tell me you know or you understand what I'm talking about, right? Never mind how you're going to do it, but just give me a thumbs up all the same. Now, for women, if your husband shares something with you, don't react disproportionately. Because otherwise, the problem of sorting out your emotions, all your emotions, when he shares it with you, begins to look more to him than the actual problem that he was trying to solve internally in the first place, if you see what I mean. So, temper your reaction when your husband shares something deep and intimate with you. And also, let me say this, don't betray his confidences. So if he shares something with you, don't go sharing it with your bestie or your mother or your sister, right? Thank you. Because if you do that, then that kind of makes it difficult for him to share the next time, and that may be the last time he opens up his heart to share with you. So it's very important that you keep confidences in your marriage. That applies to both, husbands and wives. So deep communication is important, and I will talk more about that, in another broadcast another day, because I don't have the time to do that today. Third thing is companionship. Companionship has to do with spending time with each other. Intimacy grows with shared experiences. So if you don't spend time with each other, then you begin to lose intimacy. And intimacy is not self-sustaining. It must be maintained. So you have to spend time with each other in order to maintain your intimacy. And the fourth is trust. The fourth way to build intimacy is trust. So intimacy, requires that you trust that person. And that's why intimacy is the first thing that disappears in a marriage when a spouse has been unfaithful or when they have become untrustworthy. So it's easy to lose, and it takes time to rebuild. It can be rebuilt, but it takes time to rebuild. It can only develop in an atmosphere of safety and security. And if the other person feels unsafe for any reason in that relationship, then you find that the intimacy is lost. Now, if you've ever been in a situation where intimacy was lost because of broken trust, drop me a message in the comments box so that, I know that you get what I'm talking about. And if you're just joining us, welcome. It's not too late to let us know where you're watching from. Just drop me a comment in the comments box letting me know where you're watching from. It's great to have you with us today. Now, if you're watching the rebroadcast as well, still drop me a comment. It's not too late for you to leave your comments in the comments box. Now, also, let me say, get your questions ready. Get your questions ready, because I'm going to be taking questions at the end of this broadcast. So get your questions ready. Now, the third component of lifetime love is commitment. Somebody say commitment or type commitment. Now, commitment is the cold, calculating aspect of lifetime love. So I talked about intimacy being the warm aspect of lifetime love. I talked about passion being the hot aspect of lifetime love. Commitment is the cold, calculating aspect of lifetime love. It doesn't sound as exciting as passion because it's not based on goosebumps or butterflies in your tummy or all that kind of excitement. It doesn't feel as good as intimacy because it doesn't make you feel warm and wanted. Commitment is a decision that you make in the cold light of day. You think about it and you say, okay, I'm going to commit to this person. I'm going to commit to this person. So it's crucial. It's crucial that you understand that the other aspects of love don't work without commitment, because as unexciting as commitment might be, it's the most fundamental aspect of lifetime love, because it holds together all the other aspects of love. And without commitment, love does not stand a chance. That's the reality. So you've got to have commitment. Commitment is what creates sort of like an impenetrable fortress that protects your love throughout the different seasons that you go through in life, the different challenges that you face in life. Is what creates certainty in a relationship, that relationship is going to last until the end. It's going to last for a lifetime, even when you face an uncertain future. It's that commitment that will keep you going. It's like an anchor that holds your relationship in place, and protects it during the storms of life, because storms of life will inevitably come in a relationship. But if you are committed and you've made up your mind to stick together, you've made up your mind to be committed to each other, then you will find that relationship will last for a lifetime. Now, let me say this: marriage sometimes moves through all kinds of different seasons. You might face all kinds of, different situations in marriage, but if you've made up your mind to be committed, then that's what sees you through those storms. You might go through phases in your life where it seems as if, passion is, more prevalent in the relationship, or maybe there's an emphasis on intimacy, or there's an emphasis on commitment. But you see, in order for your relationship to last a lifetime, you have to try to keep these three aspects of love in balance: passion, intimacy, and commitment. They are like three legs of a stool. So if one of them breaks down, then the relationship is lopsided, and it may fail. But if you keep the three together and you keep trying to balance them, then that's what makes relationships last for a lifetime. So let me say this in summary: intimacy plus commitment minus passion is just friendship. Yeah? Intimacy plus commitment minus passion is just friendship. That's not marriage, and that would be boring, if that's what you base your marriage on, because you might as well be with your friend, or your brother or your sister, if passion is missing, because passion is what distinguishes marriage from just any other kind of relationship. Thank you. Give me a thumbs up or, a high five or something to let me know that you get what I'm saying. Thank you very much, Elizabeth Gomwalk, for joining us. Great to have you with us. Now, also let me say, intimacy plus passion minus commitment is shallow and is selfish, because it will not last the distance, right? You're passionate about someone, you're intimate, you like to spend time together, but you're not prepared to be committed to them. That's just shallow and selfish, and it will not last the distance. That's the reality. And then lastly, passion plus commitment minus intimacy, that leads to isolation. That leads to loneliness. So you're passionate about each other, in your marriage, your sex life is okay. You're committed to each other. You want to go the long haul, but you're not intimate. You don't spend time talking to each other. You don't spend time sharing, your dreams or what's happening in your heart and all that. That just leads to isolation. So when you find people saying, "Oh, I'm lonely in the marriage, I'm married, but it's as if, I'm not," that's the bit that is missing. It's the bit of intimacy. So you need passion, intimacy, and commitment to actually enjoy the best of your relationship. Now, that's generally what I wanted to share with us today. If you're just joining us, it's great to have you with us. Drop me a comment in the comment box. Let me know where you're joining us from. It's great to have you with us. Now, I'm going to be taking questions in a moment, but I hope this has helped you. Now, I'm going to take questions, and get ready to put your questions in the comments box. But before I do that, let me say this. I'm going to ask you to do three things. First of all, I'll ask you subscribe on my website, tommytalks.com. You see, when you do that, first of all, you will never miss any of my videos again, because I post new videos every Saturday, every weekend, and I post new live videos the first Saturday of every month. And also, when you do that, you will also receive a free copy of my ebook, Making Love Last Forever. So go to my website, tommytalks.com, and subscribe there. Second thing I'd like you to do is connect with me on social media. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. Connect with me, leave comments there so that I know that you're there, right? I've got over 100 videos on Facebook and on YouTube that you can watch from time to time, talking about a broad range of issues and all that. So share, and just share with me constantly on on social media. And then lastly, let me say, tell a friend, share on social media so that they know what you're gaining. Thank you very much, Opabanjo, for joining us from Germany. It's great to have you with us. Now, I'm going to be taking some questions right now, and I already have two questions which people had asked previously, which kind of speak to what I've talked about in this broadcast. So I'd like to take those questions first. But if you've got a question that you would like me to take, then drop it in the comments box and I'm going to take it after that. Now, the first question is this. He says, we've been dating for 8 years now with love and passion for each other, even though we live in 2 distant cities. We want to start our marriage plans, but I noticed that my fiance is not as romantic as he was before. No more sweet words, romantic text messages, etc. And I asked him about it, and he accepted that he still loves me, but the emotions and the passion are no more like before. I still love him very much. Should we still go ahead with our marriage plans? Well, what do you think? Well, let me say this. Passion must be cultivated, otherwise it will die. So the pursuit of your partner is what generates passion. And when you stop pursuing, you start taking each other for granted, and then passion begins to fade. And I think that's what's happened in this relationship, particularly because you've been in the relationship now for about 8 years, and it's also a long distance relationship. So that can be challenging. I'm speaking from experience here because I was in a relationship with my husband for 7 years. 6 of those years were not in the same city. So it takes hard work to maintain, that passion, to constantly stay in communication so that you stay intimate with each other and all that. It takes hard work. And let me also say that sometimes men can be a bit project-based when it comes to, relationships. I think it's the way that God wired them. So, they tend to look at a relationship as sort of like a project. So, they're faced with the project, they pursue. And then after a while, they move on. Once they feel that aspect is secure, then they move on to other things. Thank you very much joining us from Dubai. Odoka Wahiri from Dubai. It's great to have you here. Now, so they pursue, and then when it gets to the point where it's like, well, this relationship is secure, they feel they can move on to other things. But you see, your wife is a lifelong project, right? Whoever you're in a relationship with is a lifelong project, and you've got to realize that. So you see, it seems to me in this situation that your fiance has replaced passion with commitment. He's committed to you in his heart, but he's not doing the things that he used to do to maintain passion. So in order to, to rekindle that passion, it's clear that he's committed to you, and this relationship will work. I will absolutely say it will work, but there are things that you need to do. You need to go back to those 3 points that I shared from the book of Revelation. First of all, remember how things used to be. That's what he needs to do. Remember, how exciting it was before. Secondly, he needs to turn his attention back to you, all right? And then thirdly, you need to both consciously begin to do the things you used to do before. Consciously. You may not feel it, but you begin to feel it as you do it. The more you do it, the more you feel it. So, as you act act in a passionate manner towards your spouse or your fiance, then you actually begin to rekindle that passion. You cannot replace passion with commitment. Passion has its own place. Commitment has its own place, right? Now, also, I've got another question here. Oh, and also let me say to you, above all, get married quickly. Get married as soon as possible, because if you've been in a relationship now for 8 years, that's a long time. So set your marriage plans in motion as quickly as possible and get married as soon as you can, so that, you can spend time together. Now, let me say that there's another question here. Now, it's a gentleman asking this time. He says, if you marry a woman who is not romantic and you're passionate about that, how can you make her adopt it? Right? Now, that's a very interesting question. First of all, let me say this. You cannot make someone adopt romance, right? Now, men and women I have found a lot of times, different definitions for what romance is, right? Now, a lot of times I find in marriage that there's a disconnect between what the husband thinks romance is and what the wife thinks romance is. First of all, it has to do with love languages. So, very, very often you find somebody who maybe, their love language is touch. So they consider romance to be, touching somebody or touching their spouse. You see, on the other hand, maybe, their wife, her love language is words, or, maybe, acts of service or something. So they don't consider touch to be particularly romantic initially. So if you have different love languages, that can be a challenge. If you look back to my live broadcast that I did last month, I talked a lot about the 5 different love languages. It's crucial to understand your wife's love language. That's the first thing. So recognize, what does she appreciate? Does she appreciate touch? Does she appreciate words, compliments and things like that? Does she appreciate gifts? Whatever it is, you've got to speak her love language if you want her to feel romantic towards you. And let me also say, the second thing is this. A lot of men define sex as romance in marriage, but I find that the majority of women do not define romance as sex or sex as romance. They usually feel, well, romance leads to sex or it can lead to sex, but sex is not necessarily romantic for women. I know that is hard for most men to understand, but that's the reality. So for most women, romance is all about, nice words, complimenting her, being kind to her, giving her gifts and things like that. And then at the end of that whole, song and dance, then she begins to think about sex. So you got to understand what makes your wife tick. That's the key to answering this question. What makes her tick? What's exciting to her? And you've got to do what is exciting to her in order to get what is exciting to you. Well, I hope that has helped you. I hope I've answered your question. Right, so let me look at any other questions that I've got here. If you're still watching, give me a like or a thumbs up or or high five or whatever, so that I know you're still there. Great. Now, let me just scan through the questions. How will I handle a fiancé that is complaining a lot, especially about little mistakes? Well, that can be a challenge. If you have somebody who is constantly complaining about, mistakes that they make, or that you make rather, well, I suppose, first of all, you need to take time and understand what exactly is it that, he's complaining about. Some people can be... beg your pardon. What exactly is it that he's complaining? All right. Now, some people can be, when it comes to relationships, they can be a bit picky about things and all that. They might be someone that pays attention to little details too much, or they might be perfectionists, and they need to realize that everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes you might find that you make mistakes here and there and all that. So how do you handle that? Well, you need to explain to him how you feel when he reacts that way. You need to explain to him how it makes you feel, first of all, because every human being needs to have the freedom to make mistakes in a relationship in order for that relationship to actually feel safe to them. So it may be that he's complaining about things and he doesn't actually realize how it makes you feel. That's the first thing. And also, ask yourself, is he complaining about the same things in a relationship? Then if he is, then, maybe there are things that you need to watch out for. You need to pay attention to actually realize, what it is that, he's trying to pass across. Because sometimes people don't quite know how to communicate their needs and their desires in a relationship, and they do it by complaining. That's not ideal, but then sometimes it's an indication, to what you need to pay attention to in the relationship. But above all, you need to make him see how that makes you feel in the relationship, because if he doesn't realize how that makes you feel in the relationship, then it might be difficult for him to actually recognize the impact that that's having on you in that relationship. Now, just to look at what other questions have we got here. Just scroll through the questions. If you've got another question, just drop it. What are the 5 love languages again? Okay, I'll take them again. Number 1 is gifts. The second one is, thank you. That's a good student, right? Acts of service, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, and quality time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing the love languages. So those are the key love languages. Somebody says, how can I cope with a woman who cannot manage money? I'm really worried if I can marry her. Well, that can be a challenge. Well, we all have different views of how to handle money, right? So we all tend to handle money in different ways. So, sometimes you find out that, people's money follows their passion, or generally people's money follows their passion. Now, the thing is this, if you're someone that is great with money, you find that opposites always tend to attract in a relationship. So you might find that someone who manages money very well, is coupled up with somebody who doesn't manage money very well. I believe that one of the reasons why God makes opposites attract in a relationship is because that actually kind of acts as a safeguard, sorry. So you got certain strengths in an area, and the other person has got weaknesses in that area. So you use your strengths to cover for them. Because if you look at your relationship carefully, there are some areas where you have weaknesses where she is strong as well. So it's your responsibility as a husband to help her, and you kind of balance things out, So you help her in the area of, managing finances, and then she helps you in other areas as well, because none of us is perfect. Now, some people, really need to learn principles of financial management and all that, but there are ways to teach her without making her feel bad about herself. That's what I'm saying. But you're in her life to be able to help her. So the fact that you're different in that area doesn't mean that you're incompatible. It just means that that's an area where you can be a blessing in her life, where you can be you can be of help to her. I've got a video that I shared, some time ago about, differences in money languages. So if you go back to my past videos and look at money languages, we all view money differently. So it may be that she views money completely differently from how you view money. So for instance, some people, like to spend money on experiences, while other people are thinking in terms of investment and all that. And someone's like, look, I want to enjoy my life with my money right now. So if you have different money languages, that can also be an issue. Now, I can't go into that in detail here, but if you look at my previous video where I talked about money languages, that should help you on this one. Now, let me see. Okay. Is intimacy time dependent or effort based? Thank you, Tola. Is intimacy time dependent or effort based? I'd like to say that I'm a very intimate person. Yeah, it may be foreign to my husband, so at times we struggle to communicate. When I try to communicate my needs, it comes across as an attack. How do we build true intimacy? Does it take years to develop? And what if only one person is interested? Well, there are a number of ways to build intimacy. One of them is you need to spend time deliberately with that person, and you also need to deliberately be prepared to open up to that person. And now, as I said before, we all vary in our desire to be open. So some people are more open than others. Some people struggle more with openness than others. And for those who are more introverted, it takes time for them to actually develop, that ability to open up their hearts and share with someone, right? So in order to, for him to actually get to a point where to meet the desire that you have for intimacy, that it's probably, a case where, first of all, it needs time. You need to, to develop it over time, and he needs to recognize that he can trust you with the things that he shares with you. So if he opens his heart to you, so first of all, you don't react disproportionately, like I said earlier on, you just listen, and then also, a lot of times when a man is sharing, he's not looking for you to solve his problems. He just wants, to open up. But he will watch to see your reaction, and that will determine whether he goes on to open up later on. So make it a safe place for him, to be able to share. But it also it requires effort from both sides. That's the reality, because he's got to be prepared to open up his heart. So like I said, some people feel more comfortable internalizing the things that are happening in their lives. So they need to realize that you have to open up in order to be intimate with someone, because that other person is craving that intimacy. It's not an uncommon balance between husbands and wives, but it's something that can be worked on constantly. So the person that usually doesn't tend to share a lot has to constantly remind themselves, I've got to make an effort to open up my heart and share, so that I don't make my, my spouse feel irrelevant. So I hope that has helped you. Now, somebody else says, I've been dating a young man for quite some time now, and he claims to love me, but he has not proposed to me. Does that mean that he has not got any intentions towards me? That's a very interesting one. There's a recent video that I did on this topic, actually, talking about, when a man will not commit. I shared there that, look, if a man is not prepared to commit in a relationship, and, you spend some time in that relationship and all that, don't go spending ages, if it's clear that, commitment is not on the horizon, until he commits. Keep your schedule busy and keep your options open. So what I'm saying is if he has not committed, then he should not be seeking to monopolize your time and your attention and expect you to spend all your time and your attention on him for years and years, because a year is a long time in a woman's life. That's the reality. And that's what I keep saying to men. A year is a very long time in a woman's life. So, don't keep her hanging on. If you're not interested, end the relationship. But if you are interested, then make a move. If you can't figure out within a year whether you actually want to commit to someone or not, then I think, there's a challenge somewhere. Yeah, I'm clearly, maybe you're just postponing the inevitable. So what I'm saying is this: don't spend forever waiting for a man who is not prepared to commit. If you've observed the relationship, you're enjoying the relationship, but it doesn't seem ready to commit. Sometimes you find that when you keep your schedule open and you keep your options open, and he knows that you're making friends with other people and all that, that may stir him up to think about the relationship a bit more and about whether he needs to actually make a move in that relationship. Right, let me take one more question. Okay. I think I've actually taken all the questions. Okay, that's awesome. Oh, there's one. Okay. What's your advice for a relationship that always has misunderstandings because one of the spouses complains about everything he sees or feels is wrong? I've answered a similar question just a while ago. So if a person is always complaining, there are people like that tend to be perfectionists, and they always tend to point out things and be critical about things and all that. But you see, in order to build intimacy in a relationship, you've got to be prepared to accept the other person. You've got to be prepared to accept them as they are. Everyone makes mistakes. You've got to have the freedom within a relationship to make mistakes. And you see, it's not your responsibility to constantly point out the mistakes of your spouse. If there's something they do that's hurting you, then open up, share it once, and just end it there, and be prepared to forgive them, and accept them as they are. Because if you keep constantly complaining about things, you become a nagging spouse. My definition of nagging is simply telling your spouse the truth about their faults over and over and over again. Yes, they have faults, they've made mistakes, but you see, the thing is if you keep complaining, then you make the atmosphere of that relationship incompatible with intimacy. But instead, I always say in a relationship, choose your battles. There are some things that are very important to you. Share them once with your spouse and then take them to prayer. Share them once so they know how important it is, and then begin to pray about it. But you see, to constantly be harping about things, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, and all that, you cannot expect intimacy in that kind of atmosphere. And let me also say that, for men, when a woman is constantly criticized, it has a way of shutting down her sex drive. That's the reality, because she feels that she can't please you any longer. So that intimacy and that passion in the relationship is lost. So he needs to realize how much it hurts you, when he's constantly complaining and picking on, faults and little things and all that. Like I said, before, if you want to restore intimacy in a relationship, turn your attention back to what it is that made you excited about that person in the first place. Remember their strengths and don't constantly focus on their weaknesses, because what you focus on will become your idea of reality. I hope that has helped you. Thank you very much for joining me on this live broadcast. It's been exciting spending time with you, right? So give me a likes and a thumbs up just to say this has been great or this has helped me. It's been lovely spending time with you. Like I said before, please go to my website, tommytalks.com, and subscribe there so you can receive a copy of my free ebook, and you'll get emails from me reminding you about my videos and all the other things that I'm doing on Tommy Talks. And then secondly, tell a friend about this and connect with me on social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course on Twitter as well. It's been lovely. You've been an awesome audience. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. The very next live broadcast is on the first Saturday of April, so don't miss it. Tell your friends, tell your family, don't miss it, and I'm looking forward to see you then. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye for now.